Sip a mug.
Man, is you me mugging? No, it's my sipping mug.
Sip a mug. All right, Josh, I need you to suit up, bud.
Oh, no.
Yep. We got a war on our hands.
Oh.
And it wasn't a war of our making. I just want to be clear about this.
You know what? There's something I always teach my kids, and I say, you never start a fight, but you finish one.
Finish it. That's right. That's what I've always told my kid, too.
I mean, that's what it is.
So, for everybody out there, we're currently recording on Saturday, May the 24th. Mm-hmm. This past Tuesday's episode of the Holy Chit Chat podcast, which is these two quote-unquote Christian ladies, both terms that I use very loosely here. They were throwing shade at us because we had a little accidental spilling of an energy drink.
Which caused zero issues.
Zero issues. We cleaned it up.
Yes, we cleaned it up.
We made sure we dried off the one cable that was actually close to any of the stuff.
I mean, if anything, the brunt of what happened to my laptop. So, none of the recording electronics or anything got damaged or anything like that. Basically, if one of them wouldn't have been in close proximity when we were cleaning everything up, they would have never would have known, right? Never known.
So, we cleaned it up completely. But they were making comments and telling us that we would no longer be allowed to bring energy drinks or food up to the recording studio. Even threatening us if we were to ruin one of the cords that are used in the setup. Right. I just think that this is really funny. Because, first off, they mooch off of us.
Right, exactly. I mean, whose podcast came out first?
We started our podcast first. We set all of this up.
Right. I even brought a comfy chair up. And, nothing was, thank you.
That's right. I purchased the equipment that we have up here. We're using all of our own personal headphones. Right. Your headphones, my headphones.
Exactly.
All of the stuff that we have set up here. And it's bad enough that we have to deal with their spittle being on our microphones. And on
sometimes
our
the levels getting all changed
them touching stuff and messing it up. It's bad enough. Right. Did they move our things around? But this
is unacceptable.
For them to come at us? Right. Like this,
as
Josh pours more energy drink into his sippy cup that we were given because we're irresponsible and spill energy drinks.
But you know what? It tastes delicious.
But now they think that they can tell us what to do. Yeah. That they're going to kick us out of our own space.
Right.
I'm stealing cords when we get there. I'm just taking one cord that's going to make all the difference in whether or not they can record.
Here's the fun thing. If we take our ball and go home, how are they going to record their podcast?
Let's see. Yeah. Good luck getting good quality on your microphone that's built into your MacBook. Right. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. You might as well use the little camera that's up there, too, for a video.
Right. No, we love our friends over at
the Holy Chit Chat.
Holy Chit Chat podcast. We love you guys. We are going to bust your chops, though, if you keep making fun of us.
Yeah, of course. I said, we don't start anything, but we will sure as heck finish it.
That's right. My dad taught me right. All right, man.
I have a would you rather question for you.
Oh, let's go.
All right. So would you rather have a talking pet that constantly judges you or a regular pet who occasionally transforms into a human and critiques your life choices?
Wow.
Like I said, because I was like, I found the question. This is that question. So would you rather have basically Donkey from Shrek all the time, but he just constantly judges you? Like, oh, that's your house? Or, oh, who lives in that? And then it was like, oh, that's my house. Oh, that's a nice house. I like that boulder.
Well, see, I was going to say, if the pet is passive aggressive and funny in it, then I'm totally on board for the pet that makes fun of me. If it's legit saying things that are just going to hurt my feelings with no humor with it, it's like, hey, you're really bad at organization. If it's just telling me stuff like that all the time, then I'm kind of like, I think I'd rather have the one that turns into a human every once in a while and just kind of tells me about my
thought is
life choices.
I'm trying to think maybe the pet would be I don't know if you ever watched Big Bang Theory, but Sheldon Cooper. Yeah. That's what it is, constantly, that does not get sarcasm at all, but is just deadpan the whole time. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know.
If it's humorous, I could get down with it. Have you watched any of Andor yet?
No, I have not.
So we just finished Andor.
So here's my thing.
Okay.
I'm I'm slightly in the camp now of I don't want to consume Disney Star Wars.
So that is totally fair, with the exception of Andor, Ahsoka, and The Mandalorian.
Okay,
I think the Dave Filoni things that he's doing in the Star Wars universe are totally on the acceptable range. I think that if you're talking about like the movies and stuff they've been producing and everything, and some of the other shows too. Like there's been some shows that have just been garbage. Like everybody's gonna dislike me for this. I watched it all the way through. I didn't think it was the most horrific thing ever, but like Skeleton Crew, wasn't a massive fan of that one.
Yeah,
too many predictable things going on in it and stuff like that.
Well, and my biggest issue with the current Disney is they uncanonized everything, like the Legends and anything that Disney does not own is not canon now.
Right.
And I hate that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. But the reason why I brought it up is no, you're good. The reason why I brought it up was because we just finished Andor season 2 last night, which leads into Rogue One.
Okay.
And so because that's like Cassian is the guy who's the pilot in Rogue One, all that kind of stuff. So as we're watching through it, they introduce K2, who is the
K2SO4.
Yeah, the massive. If anybody doesn't know out there, he was an Imperial robot that it tells us the story in Andor of how Cassian got K2.
If it is K2SO4, that is the if that's the human. Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
100%. Yeah. 100%. That's what I was gonna say. Is like if it's his personality. Because if you go and watch those things, like even if you just go watch, if you go watch Rogue One. And just see the way that he has this kind of like dry sarcasm in a sense because he just says anything that comes to his mind. And it's like, like even like the touching moment at the end of Rogue One when Jyn Erso finally gives him a blaster. Mm-hmm. She's like, "You've been wanting one of these, haven't you?" And he goes, "You just are a continuing string of surprises, aren't you, Jyn Erso?" And like takes the blaster from her. But like the way he like interacts with things and stuff, like if I could have, if the human or the pet, if it's going to be that kind of like blunt honesty, but humorous in a way, I would totally take that all day.
Yeah, and
I'd love to have a sidekick that was just like no filter, says whatever they think. Well, I mean, which is basically what we are for each other.
100%. Like, yeah, this would just be having us as pets. Yeah. Like our personalities into a.
Can you imagine if I'm like your dog? And every once in a while, I just like speak up, and it's like, really, that's the choice.
That's
bud?
where we're going with this one. Do? Okay. Mm-hmm. Can I just say though how like amazing Andy Tudyk is? Because you said K2SO.
Yeah.
In the voice actor.
The voice,
yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Dude, he's like from all the Disney stuff that he does. Like I think he's been in every Disney. He's done a voice in every Disney movie since Frozen, or maybe even before.
I think when Rogue One came out, somebody pointed that out to me. They were like, go look at his list of.
And like, there's like an Easter egg in Zootopia and Frozen. Did you know this?
No, I don't think so.
So in Frozen, he plays Duke Weselton, and everybody calls him Weaselton.
Yes,
but he plays
Duke Weaselton. It's Weselton.
But he plays a weasel in Zootopia.
That's right.
And they call him Weselton, and then it's Weaselton. Like so,
that's very funny.
The names are flipped. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's huge.
He's also peddling fake Disney movies, like that.
What?
Yeah, like if you.
Yeah. They're like just off from the
they're like
names
the animal versions of the movies.
I love when people do stuff like that in movies, man. That's gold. Like,
also, can we bring back the old Pixar gag reels at the end of the movies?
Oh yeah, those are so solid,
dude. Like the bloopers
where they're actually
Story.
Animating the mess ups and vocal stuff that they were doing and everything. Like
like if you can find like a DVD of like Toy Story,
go back, Monsters Inc.
Yeah, Toy Story's Monsters Inc. Those were. Even Toy Story 2. Like Toy Story 2 did the gag reel where...
what was the other? And there was another movie that Pixar did that had a really good...
Well, Bugs Life did
Bugs
it too.
Life, that's what it was. That's the one I was thinking of.
Like,
because you got Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Like this huge comedian, and he's there in Bugs Life, doing all... Yeah, that was a riot.
Even, I think Cars did something similar. They did like continuation scenes. Stuff, But like at the end, like the two cars get lost in the desert. Yeah. The one's like losing his mind. Like, okay, bring that stuff back, Disney. Right. Like, quit making crap.
Yeah, go return back to the stuff that made you what you are.
Right.
Like, just don't.
I would love for people to get back to the old 2D style animation movies.
Yeah.
Like if you could do
like where all the classics came from. Yeah. Like Aladdin and
Yeah, like
and Lion King, Little Mermaid.
Right.
All those were massive hits that like every person on the face of the planet has seen because they did such a good job with them back then.
And the thing is,
the music was incredible.
If you're going to do live action remakes, and this will be my last like soapbox that I get on, probably not.
Nah.
If you're going to do a live action remake, do a shot for shot remake. You don't need to change the story.
Totally agree with that.
Like it's like you're taking something that made you who you are.
I can't understand why on earth, when The Lion King was what it was, like as a cartoon movie, it was such a massive thing,
right?
Especially for an entire 2 generations, really. But this is massive movie, and they do the live action remake of it, and they change so many things.
Right,
and I'm like,
significant
just
things.
Stick to the script, bud.
And
it ain't
like,
hard.
What? And the thing that I don't understand is like, I get like sometimes like your actors grow older and things like that. Some actors unfortunately pass away. Use the same actors.
Yeah.
Like if you can incorporate, especially the animal ones, there's
right.
no reason why you have to. You can use the same voice actors.
Well, and nowadays, and please hear me on this. I'm not trying to take jobs away from people, but if it's something like Mufasa, who has James Earl Jones voicing him in the original Lion King,
right.
That is
it's an
unmistakable voice. It's iconic. Like everybody knows it, and so. I'm just saying that nowadays we have the availability through AI.
I'm pretty sure he actually gave Disney the AI rights to his voice.
See, and that's like
that's why he's still in Star Wars.
That's what we should be doing. Is you should be for the ones that like you can't replace the voice, because James Earl Jones, you're not going to like it.
Yeah,
you would have to scour the planet to find one other person that might be able to do it as good as he could. Same thing with like. What's his name? Morgan Freeman.
Right.
There's people that imitate Morgan Freeman, but nobody quite gets it. You know what I'm saying? He's just got a voice that's like it's too distinct. And so that's my thing is like use AI, make it good. Yeah. Let's do it.
Andy Dufresne. I'll miss my friend. Yeah. Anyway, that's our high horse that we're gonna get on this week. So all right, well, so we don't go any further off the rails. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Josh.
Recognize me? No? Well, I'm Josh. I got suspended from school because of Josh.
You're going to be there with me in every way imaginable, Josh.
Josh is truly in a trance, yes.
I went to high school with Josh, and I can tell you right now, he's a terrific kisser.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Josh, these are people's jobs we're talking about, Josh.
Thank you very
much. Hi.
Josh walking in the door wasn't even close.
Josh, you are a muffin-snuggling pirate puncher.
Josh is a good guy. We can talk to him.
Please welcome Joshua. Josh.
All right, dude. Well, I sent you a text message not too long ago asking you how much you knew about a certain topic. You said that you seemed to know what country it took place in.
Oh, yeah. I was like, you asked me, like, this is about what, the emu?
The Great Emu War.
I was like, is that the thing that took place in Australia? You're like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's all I know.
I thought for sure you're going to be like, yeah, I know all about that. And you were like, nope, that's all I know is what country it was in.
It's one of those things where I probably know, like, the overarching thing.
But not the details.
But no details
And
whatsoever.
the details are what makes this story so great. So,
well, I got my sippy cup of Ghost,
energy drink.
I am ready.
So, as we dive into this, I've got some other stuff. I actually have another interesting thing that probably in the next episode I'm going to mention from Australia as well. So we'll just kind of have an Australia vein that we'll be in for a little bit, at least on my part.
Another shrimp on the barbie.
Put another shrimp on the barbie.
Sorry, I know that was offensive. I'm sorry.
So this story may serve to show you just how much Australia really does exist in its own world, as I tell you the story of the Great Emu War.
So which part of the flat earth is this on? Is this on the eastern side?
It's on the right side. So the year is 1932. This is the year of the Great Depression, if you didn't know. The U.S. is electing a new president, and Nazism is on the rise in German politics in a post-World War I era, right? So, as you can imagine, the world is preoccupied with a lot of things. it's not just everybody's not just chilling after World War I. There's a lot of things going on. So, following World War I, there were a bunch of guys that returned home from fighting in the war to Australia, and they were given land by the Australian government. So when the Great Depression began, you have a bunch of farmers that are now they're soldiers now turned farmers because Australia gave them all this land for fighting in the war.
Right.
So they come back, they get all this farmland, and Australia is just like, here you go.
Well,
so,
I mean, what else is there in Australia? Like,
yeah, oh gosh.
Even at that,
that's what's in Australia.
Well, even at that time, like, I mean, you have your couple major cities like Melbourne and Sydney.
Not a lot else.
That's all. Those are the only two cities in Australia that I know.
Because they're the only two.
Everything else is desert and outback and all that kind of stuff. And spiders the size of this table that will kill you.
Yep. Makes my skin crawl thinking about it. So we get all these new farmers, right? And they are encouraged as we go into the Great Depression. They're encouraged by the government to increase their wheat production because they're trying to think through of like basically how we're going to feed all the people in our country. Now, because of the recommendations and the promised subsidies that the government gave, wheat prices continue to just like fall. They're plummeting during this time.
Right, because it's the same thing with the cheese.
Yep, it's supply and demand.
Uber inflation. The government's like, hey, we're going to create all this. We're going to have all these subsidies, and then the bottom falls out of everything.
Absolutely. And so by October 1932, the situation intensified to the point that farmers were demanding their money from the government while also threatening to withhold their wheat from the government because of, this whole situation that's going on, right? So the entire situation was even further intensified and made worse when approximately 20,000 emus began to invade their farmlands. Now, I'm gonna pause because
so emu is like an ostrich,
very close cousin to the ostrich.
Okay, so
the average emu.
Wait, can they fly?
No, they're flightless. Yeah,
okay.
That's correct. So the average emu, just to give a size perspective, an adult emu is approximately 6 foot tall.
Okay,
so when we say 20,000 emus show up, we're not talking about like the flocks of birds that we see headed south and stuff like that here in Ohio when wintertime comes. We're talking about 20,000 adult human height birds that just are moving in flocks, right? So the background of this is that in Australia, the emus typically head inland to breed.
Okay.
During their breeding season, and once their young are born, they migrate back towards the kind of coastal areas. And so that's what's happening in the midst of all this is that there's this they've breeded inland and now they are migrating back to the coastal areas to go find food and to live their lives and stuff. Now, since all of these farmers had moved in and cultivated the land to produce crops by clearing brush, sourcing water, all these kinds of things that you need to be a farmer, the emus essentially found paradise when they came across these farms. They're like, look, there's food, there's water, there's safety within these fields and stuff because the farmers are protecting their fields from everything else except for giant chickens. In particular, they found out that the emus were gravitating towards farms that were around Chandler and Walgalan. Sure. These two specific areas, right? So then the emus began to eat the crops and destroy everything they came in contact with. Like they talked about the fact that these emus ruined rabbit fences by leaving holes in them. Like they would push their way through them. They took over barns and different places to like roost, basically. So they're like, this is now ours. We've just claimed it.
So like, so all I can think of is two things. One, I can think of like in Polar Express where all the caribou and stuff are on the trains. That. Yeah. And then I'm like Plague of Locusts, but it's emus.
Right. That's basically the feel of how, like, when I was reading this, that's how it came across.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, the farmers get pissed off about this.
Naturally.
And they went to the government to demand help. Specifically, these veterans, now turned farmers, wanted access to machine guns left over from the war in World War I to help deal with this emu population. Which I'm like, for it being in Australia, it's like the most American like thing that they could have done.
For a country who now dislikes guns as much as they do,
they're just like, give us machine guns. We want
freaking trench guns and flamethrower. Oh wait, that's World War II.
So the government didn't want to just readily hand over machine guns to the normal population.
Naturally.
But they did make an agreement with the farmers. The guns could only be handled by military personnel, and the farmers would be tasked with feeding and housing the military personnel as they hunted the emus.
But weren't most of the farmers former military?
Yes.
So are they only giving them to current military?
Yes.
Okay.
Only people that are currently in the military and have been trained with these weapons specifically.
Okay.
So the war begins. Major, I'm going to try to say this guy's name.
Okay. Well, I don't know what like made this image pop into my head.
Yeah.
But it's like an emu like with like a giant Australian flag behind it, like doing the General Patton. Like,
oh yeah, he's got the helmet on and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. So yeah. And whatever emus sound like he's doing the speech of, we will not go quietly into the night. We will stand our ground. So
to fight them in the trenches.
Major Gwynedd Purves Wynne Aubrey Meredith.
God bless you.
Yeah, exactly. Of the Royal Australian Artillery's 7th Heavy Artillery was placed in command of Sergeant S. McMurray and Gunner J. O'Halloran. Halloran? I don't know.
Sure.
It's like Halloween, but Oran at the end. And so he's placed in charge of these guys who are armed with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammo is what they're given. And basically, like, these guys are told, you can take a military vehicle, you're going to drive out to these places where the emus are a problem, and your job is to go and try to wipe out as many emus as you can. So here's the first attempt. Yeah. It gets better.
I'm sorry. The first attempt?
Yep. The first attempt. The men went to a spot where approximately 50 emus had been spotted. So what's happened is these emus naturally kind of gravitate towards like packs. And I don't think I even have this in the notes for the story and stuff, but they did recognize over time that each one of these packs of emus had like a leader that was typically like darker feathers and stuff like that. And it was the one that was like, while the rest of the emus would go and eat or do different things, he would stand guard and watch out and basically call out when there was trouble and stuff. So he's like their commander basically. So it really was like a war. Like they've got factions and everything, which is great.
Okay, this is getting better and better.
Yeah. So some of the local farmers tried to assist Meredith McMurray and O'Halloran by herding the emus into an ambush that they set up, right? So they've got these 50 emus that they know where they are. They set up this spot, and the farmers are helping them to kind of drive the birds in. So the problem was that the birds, as they got closer and closer, started splitting off into smaller groups of birds, making it harder for these guys to be able to herd them into an initial volley of gunfire that was coming. So during the second round of gunfire, so the first time that they fire off, basically they said they were too far off. They're shooting at these birds and they're not hitting anything. Like the birds are just running all over the place.
Because
and they're
using machine gun bullets and not bird shot.
Oh, yeah, should have been using shotguns. But they're firing these machine guns. They don't hit like anything during the first volley that they send. During the second round of gunfire, the report says that they were able to kill, in quotes, a number of birds.
I mean, 1 is a number of a bird.
Right. Which comes into play in this story, trust me. Later the same day, they also managed to kill, and I quote, perhaps a dozen birds.
Okay, so
at maximum right now, we're thinking that maybe, but yeah, I'd say maybe like 20 birds. So
1%.
1%
right?
of...
Okay. Yeah. Yes. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. 0.1%?
0.1%.
A very small number, either way. It doesn't matter. 20 birds out of 20,000 birds. So one of you that's better with numbers out there can do that. Later on November the 4th, Meredith and his men set up an ambush near a local dam where they lured in more than 1,000 emus. So now they're getting a little bit better about their herding capabilities. Would you like to guess what happened when they tried to kill these 1,000 emus?
I'm going to slowly venture a guess that it wasn't very successful.
It was not. They opened fire with a fully automatic machine gun into 1,000 emus. They killed 12 emus before the gun jammed. And the remainder of them scattered about.
No.
Yeah. As days went on, with very little success, Meredith eventually went so far as to mount one of the machine guns to the top of a truck. So he's kind of going into like more modern day feel of, right, like now we have Humvees that have machine guns on top of them. Mm-hmm. He's trying to do that, which seems like a great idea. As long as you have a truck
that can support...
No.
Oh.
As long as you have a truck that is capable of keeping up with emus when they run, which they did not.
How fast are they?
I don't know. That's a good question. We should look that up real quick.
But like, okay, so my imagination is, you see like Black Hawk Down is coming to mind, like where they're in Somalia with like the pickup trucks, as far as like what the design of the gun is. And I mean, a regular pickup truck, I mean, yes, granted it is the 1920s.
Right.
So I guess
1930s, but
okay, 1930s. So
but this is very like old school automobiles.
But
so the average emu can run 31 miles an hour, which is not shabby.
No, for a bird.
Yeah, their truck was not great about being able to keep up with the emus, and they also found out the concept of aiming a machine gun while riding on the back of a truck and shooting at moving targets. Not the easiest thing to do, right? So by November the 8th, they had fired. I want you to hear these. Mm-hmm. By November the 8th, they had fired 2,500 rounds of ammunition. Do you want to guess how many birds they killed with 2,500 rounds of ammunition?
Let's see. So 12, about 2 dozen.
So it's more than that.
Oh, okay.
So, with 2,500 rounds of ammunition, the conservative number that they killed was 50 emu. The high number that they possibly killed was 500 emu.
Okay, that's
a big number swing.
Yeah.
But if you take it into consideration, that's also saying that we are, like, at best, we're using 5 rounds of machine gun ammo per bird to take them down.
Okay, so then that brings up...
At worst, we're using 500.
Right. Now, how difficult
50,
are these birds to take down? I mean, okay, granted, do you know what caliber machine gun it was, rounds they were using?
That I don't recall. I did look it up at one point in time because I had the Lewis machine gun like pulled up so that I could see.
So if you take a 22 versus like a 5.56 and on a groundhog, something that you and I are both familiar, it's going to take a lot more 22 rounds to subdue a groundhog than it is a 5.56.
These are shooting a 303
okay
British round, which is not small.
No, not at all.
I have a 30-30 lever action downstairs, and that's basically the same bullet that I shoot out of that. And that Jugger's, it's not small at all.
What, about 3 inches or so?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably 2.5 to 3 inches long.
3 inch round.
A lot of gunpowder behind it, and decent sized projectile coming out of them. I mean, it's not. You're not shooting 22s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So they should subdue a emu.
If you're hitting them in the right spots and stuff like that, I would imagine that.
Well, I would imagine too, like, ostriches and emus, like they do have smaller heads. So I mean, obviously, you're aiming for body.
Are really tough on these birds for sure.
Is that what they're trying to do? Is just like headshot all of these birds?
I can only imagine that with 1,000 emus, that you're just kind of like spray and pray on the body side. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, you would think. Like, that makes no sense. Like,
statistically, I just think you would hit more birds. I'd love to be given a shot. You know what I'm saying?
I'm pretty
just
sure
to prove that we could do better.
Yeah.
But anyways, Meredith's official report stated that they had suffered no casualties.
Wait, the emus or
the men? Except for their dignity, which was the way that he worded it, which I was like,
pride.
You should be hurting in that department right now. So Major Meredith commented on the striking maneuverability of the emus while badly wounded. So he said that like they got juke moves for days, basically, is what he's talking about.
You got juked out by emus using a machine gun.
Yeah.
That pivots.
And you were on a truck.
So
he is quoted as saying,
"Why has nobody invaded Australia?"
Well, hey, look, because nobody wants to live there. That place is a land of death. That's in my other thing that I've got to tell you at some point in time. So he's quoted as saying, "If we had a military division with the bullet carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks."
So bro, you just can't shoot.
He's saying that like they're hitting them and they're just not dying. So while the military lost heart, the farmers weren't so keen on giving up because their whole livelihood is on the line. Right,
exactly.
So they asked for support, and James Mitchell, the premier of Western Australia, was in support of continued military assistance with the emus. So on November the 12th, Meredith was once again, this is what dumbfounds me, is why the same guy was sent back in. But Meredith was once again placed in the field due to an apparent lack of experienced machine gunners in the state. So they sent the same guy back in to do the same job with the same equipment. So this time, I will give him some credit. He and his men found a degree of success over the first 2 days. They killed about 40 emus in 2 days, which for them is like,
I mean, almost 100% improvement.
Stellar. Yeah. So by December the 2nd, the men had gained some experience and were killing approximately 100 emus a week. So they're getting better at it. So, which you should be, right? So on December the 10th, 1932, a report was given claiming that 986 emus had been killed, that were confirmed kills, with 9,800 rounds of ammunition. So 10 rounds per bird.
It's not even 10%.
Of the birds?
Of the birds.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. So it's 10.
So how long a time period are we talking?
Well, all of this started in October of 1932, and this is December 10th when this report comes out.
Okay, so 2 months.
2 months.
They've managed to quell 9%, 8 to 9% of the birds.
Yeah. Okay. At a cost of 10 rounds per confirmed kill. Overall, they estimated that approximately. So here's where it does change a little bit, but I'll give you the percentages. But they estimated that approximately 3,500 to 4,000 emus had died during the Great Emu War. Approximately 2,500 due to injuries. So like they shot them and they died later on, type of thing. So which again equates to approximately 20% of the invading emu population that came in. Now, despite the appearance of things, the operation was heralded as a success. It was said to have saved the wheat population. How? I don't know.
Okay, so just kind of processing everything.
Yeah.
So was this a new thing that had happened, or was this just an issue because they gave all of these guys farmland that wasn't farmland before?
Right. Yeah, so it became a thing because of now the number of farms have
increased.
Yeah, they've compounded and stuff because of these guys coming back from the war and receiving their land. And then on top of them starting their farms, the government's demand for wheat production to be increased as much as it was. They made a smorgasbord of the emu's favorite food and put it out there for them to come and find. And so when the emus, who had been doing this migration pattern for forever, when they went on their migration pattern, they started finding these farms, and they're just chock full of wheat for the emus to go eat. So they find paradise. And so in essence, it was the people created this situation. The emus had been there. Like that, it was no shock to anybody that the emus were going to migrate. It was only a shock what they started doing to the farms, because, like I said, they show up, they're ruining fences, they're taking over barns, they're everywhere, because you got 20,000 of them running around and stuff like that. So people are just they became acutely aware of them because of their livelihood being tied up now in what the emus were doing. So here's the funny thing: is 1932 is considered the time of the Great Emu War,
right? Which
I find it hilarious to call it the Emu War because you had 20,000 emus that they only knocked out approximately 20% of them,
right?
And there was only 3 dudes that technically fought in the Emu War as far as like official military guys, right? They were like farmers were killing emus and stuff like that because they were like, you know, we're going to do what we got to do in that sense. So there's some funny things that came out of this. The emu problem obviously didn't go away.
Right.
So the emus are going to continue to do their migration every single year. They're going back inland to breed, and they're coming back to the coastal areas after they get done with that every year. So the farmers had to go to the government of Australia and ask for assistance with the emu problem again in 1934, 1943, 1948, only to be turned down by the government again and again and again because the government kept looking back on what happened in 1932.
We can't do anything about it.
They're like, we just can't send guys out with machine guns.
So is this Australia's Cuyahoga River fire?
Yeah. Just keeps returning, right? And keeps getting worse. Here's the funny thing about it, right? Well, I get to the end of this and I start reading about how do they handle it then? Like what's been going on since? So come to find out, in 1923, 9 years before the Great Emu War, the government had started a bounty system for emus.
I thought you were going to say like they introduced it.
Yeah,
well, you know what I'm saying, like how I think
they took wolves back to Yellowstone and now they're taking over. And
right,
everything.
or in I think that they did that in Michigan too, where they introduced coyotes or some invasive species.
They're like, well, we got too many deer, so we're going to introduce this thing and then bring it in.
I thought that's where you were going, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
As far as we know, the emus have always been there in Australia on that land and stuff, and so that's not, they didn't introduce it, but in 1923, they made this bounty system that they put in place for emus specifically that rewarded like the killing of emus and everything. So here's the funny thing is that in 1934, so 2 years after the Great Emu War has ended, over the course of 6 months in 1934, the farmers were able to claim, listen to this number, 57,034 bounties of emus in a 6-month period in 1934. Meaning that if the government would have just given the farmers the machine guns in the first place,
who were former military,
have their livelihood is on the line, all that kind of stuff. They should have just let them be killing them in the first place, and these guys would have easily wiped them out. Because in, like I said, 6-month period, they killed 57,000 emus. These guys that are trained military with a mounted machine gun on a truck couldn't kill more than about 4,000 emus.
That is absolutely that is redonkulous. Like that is,
I love it so much.
Stupid. It's one of those things where it's like, this just shows you the redundancies that the government can create, where it's like, we know how to do it better. And it's like,
exactly right.
You know, we're going to take care of this problem.
I literally wrote on the bottom of this, moral of the story, things usually get better when the people get to handle things without the government's interference. If you see a problem in your area, band together with some people. Call your local church to have them help out,
like
whatever it may be, but get the people motivated and get them behind a cause and let them do their thing. But don't call the government. They're just going to screw things up.
Well, and it's going to take 4 years for them to make a decision.
Oh my gosh,
and it's just,
you got to go through 46 different levels of government to get everything approved, and then you're going to have to go through all the red tape to be able to get permission to do things. And even then, the program they're going to put in place is probably not going to be as good as what you could have done by yourself in the beginning.
Right. And, you know, it's one of the funny thing is, you know, talking about like monumental government screw ups and like the bureaucracy and stuff.
Yeah.
Boy, do I have a story to tell you in the next episode.
Okay, awesome.
I love these natural segues.
Yeah, I was about to say a little teaser for the next time we get together. So we'll break right there and tell you a little bit about our sponsor, and then we'll be right back to close out this episode. This week, we're going to tell you again about our sponsor, the Salt Collective. So they exist to be able to come alongside small businesses and nonprofits and help them to just do business better. And so as they do that, one of the cool things that the Salt Collective does is they take the businesses that partner with them by hiring them on, and they partner them with the nonprofit organizations that they work with, so that what is paid from the businesses goes to support the nonprofits through the Salt Collective, so they get to do more work for nonprofits as more businesses hire them on. So we love seeing that partnership. We love seeing what they're doing. They work with several of the nonprofits here in our area. They work with several small businesses and friends of ours. And they have done tremendous work to be able to help grow their social media presence, to help them with marketing. And we believe that they could help you as well. So if you're a small business owner, or if you know a small business owner that's looking for some help in marketing, and especially in the world of Facebook and Instagram, all those online places that you can exist, if you know somebody in a small business that would like to hire them on for that purpose, or if you are someone that works with a nonprofit organization, we would encourage you to check out remainsalty.com, or you can go to their Facebook page by searching for the Salt Collective. You can also check them out on Instagram as well. And that we know that if you go check out their website, go check out their social media pages, you'll see the Salt Collective is a great organization doing great things for small businesses and nonprofits. Check out the Salt Collective, remainsalty.com. We appreciate it. All right, man. What do you got for me at the end of this episode?
So there's some questions or like little talking points that I kind of came up with. Just some little discussions that we can have. All right.
It worries me when you say things like that.
Honestly, I think we're going to agree on most of this stuff.
Okay.
In your world, waffles or pancakes?
Little pancakes all day long.
100%. Because it is, in my opinion, it is far easier to screw up a waffle than it is a pancake.
It's a lot easier to screw up a waffle. My complaint with waffles is that they don't soak in enough of the butter, syrup, all the stuff that I want to put on pancakes.
Okay, my only caveat to waffles, is a Waffle House waffle, but I would akin that more to a pancake than a waffle anyway.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it has a little ridge. Like, if you get, like, you can get all the syrup and all those little nooks and crannies.
Squares. Yeah.
And it's great. But
if I eat a waffle, that's what I have to do. I have to have syrup in every single square.
But, like, I don't like French waffles, like the big, huge, like, deep pocket things where you don't get any
like
waffle.
Belgian waffles and stuff like that. Yeah.
Terrible.
No, I'm a pancake fan. I love pancakes.
All right. So. In an ideal world, what are you more of? Like a morning person or a night owl?
Ideal world, I'm a night owl.
Okay.
Like, totally.
But, like, we're past the age of 35, so, like, a night owl is, like, 9 o'clock, and I'm wanting to pass out. Like,
I stayed up till almost 10 o'clock last night.
I actually stayed up till, like...
We're partying now.
I stayed up till, like, 11 last night. And just, like, unfortunately, just doom scrolling, like, doing nothing productive. Yep. But, you know.
That's usually how it is if I stay up late, too. So, I was kind of built to be a night owl, I think. Most of my life, I've always been a stay up late, sleep in the morning kind of guy. And then, I mean, just like today, we didn't have anything going on this morning before we recorded. So we started recording. We're supposed to start at 10:30, right? It's like what we typically do. And so usually I go to the gym on Saturday morning and do strongman stuff. And then I come back home and we record. And this morning, like I didn't have anything going on. I wasn't going to go to the gym. Because Brooke and I, yesterday was our anniversary, so we were just like hanging out together last night and stuff, watching movies and everything. And I had planned on kind of like sleeping in today.
Right.
7 a.m.
Oh, it's like, yeah. I almost sent you a reel on Instagram. It was like POV, like, I'm going to sleep in the next morning, and it's like that guy in the bottom, like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
The heck you are. Yeah.
It was like internal clock. It's like, no, you're not.
Time to wake up there, champ. I'm like, gosh, man.
Well, like, and that's the thing. Like, right now I'm on my schedule. Like, I wake up between 3:30 and 4 in the morning. I woke up this morning at 5:11, and I was freaking out because I thought I was late for work.
Yeah,
because I go to work at 5.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, but it was
technically speaking, I have 3 days left. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this upcoming week, and then Sky will be done with school. And
right.
Technically speaking, I don't have to be up at the time that I've been getting up.
Right.
But I probably still will, just so I can
like
continue
internally
to be as productive in that sense.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of talked about it in the episode that came out this past week. So, it'll be a couple episodes from now. We started a conversation that we really didn't get to finish because we had so much content in the episode. Yeah. Like cartoons. Like if you could bring back a cartoon. And I know you said we started with Teen Titans.
Yeah, we said Teen Titans was one that we both threw out there. We talked about this before that I was a big fan of the old school Batman cartoons.
Right, like Batman Beyond and Batman the Animated Series.
Yep.
So those are the two big ones that I remember.
Those are the ones that were on like after school for me and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think if I was really going to throw it back, the old school Transformers cartoon.
Yes, like in the late 80s.
Yeah, that was so good.
In that same vein, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon from like any of those like late 80s, early 90s cartoons, like that's like my wheelhouse.
You remember Gummy Bears?
Mm-hmm.
I used to jam with Gummy Bears, dude.
There used to be like we were talking about it at work, and I was like going through all these old shows. Like Kablam was a huge one.
I don't think I know Kablam.
Nickelodeon had like Snick, which was like Saturday night TV. It was the different variety shows. I think like all that was on there. Roadhouse, Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy.
I was trying to remember the other one, but Kablam was another one that I used to watch. Okay. It was like a cartoon variety show. So you had Prometheus and Bob was part of that.
So it was like a kid's version of Robot Chicken type of thing.
In a sense, yes, but the main characters or the hosts of the show were animated.
Yeah.
And then they did like live action, Robot Chicken-esque stuff with
claymation and stuff?
Claymation and then stop motion.
Yeah.
The Action Heroes Now was part of that.
Okay. Interesting.
But
I never saw that show. So
I loved Rocko's Modern Life.
We weren't rich, so we didn't have Nickelodeon,
I used to love Rocko's Modern Life.
Rocko's was good. That was a solid show.
Stephen Hillenburg.
Courage the Cowardly Dog back in the day.
Courage, yes.
That was a solid show.
And I was upset that Stephen Hillenburger, I'm pretty sure that's who did Rocko's Modern Life, stopped making Rocko's Modern Life, but then he went on to make SpongeBob, so it was one of those things
what was Tailspin?
Oh, Tailspin, DuckTales.
That's another favorite. Yeah, if you guys ever watched the recap video that we did from the Frogman Festival, there were some clips of us singing all these like the intro songs of these shows.
Yeah,
but those were all good. DuckTales was fantastic.
This might have been a little bit out of your wheelhouse just because you're a couple years older, but there was all of the movie cartoons that came out. The Mask had its own cartoon show.
Yeah, that was wild.
Beetlejuice. Do you remember the Beetlejuice cartoon?
Vaguely, yes.
Like I used to.
I definitely watched it a few times. But
I'm trying to remember some of the other ones that were movies. Ghostbusters, harkening back to like the old 80s.
Now the Ghostbusters cartoon, I was a big fan of.
Huge fan. I think I watched those before I ever watched the movies.
Because I had the action figures. Mm-hmm. I had Slimer,
Ecto 1.
Yeah,
I remember one of my friends that I used to play with had Ecto 1.
That's awesome,
and it was really cool.
No, the only big vehicle one that I ever recall having was I had the Batmobile from the animated series that if you reached in and pulled up the e-brake thing in the middle of it, it had, the first time you pulled it, it popped up these two little things like they looked like pop-up headlights, and then the second time you pulled it, it fired rockets out of them that were like spring-loaded.
That's cool.
That was easily one of like my favorite toys that I ever had.
I remember a couple of my cousins were older than me, so they had like all the G.I. Joe toys and stuff. Yeah.
I had a bunch of the G.I. Joes. I didn't have a ton of their like vehicles and stuff, but my mom would laugh because I had buckets of the different colored army men, so like just the typical plastic army men. And so I would set up wars in my room that would be like 2 colors of army men on one side, 2 colors on the other, and then it would be like the Masters of the Universe from He-Man. They would team up with somebody, and then like Skeletor and all his boys would be on the other side, and then we would have Transformers and Decepticons, and so that it was like all these different like of the cartoons that had like G.I. Joe and the Cobra and all that, and so I had all the ones that were opposing forces or on opposite sides, right? And I had reasonings behind. Well, the yellow guys are with He-Man because he wears yellow and has like yellow hair, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So, but I would divide them up and have them on both sides of my room. And then they would, I would pretend like they're coming in one big guy at a time and they're fighting against, and he's taking out like 20 of these army guys and stuff. They're all fighting and stuff. And then the way that every single war ended was Batman sliding in the Batmobile and just wiping out all the bad guys and then firing rockets at the big dudes and stuff. And so,
of course, it would be Batman for you.
100%. Like I loved Batman when I was little, so because that's why I think the Batman Beyond and all those like stick out in my mind as. I think that especially Batman Beyond, because like the OG Batman series that was out before Batman Beyond that led right into it, right? Because they used they aged Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that first episode of Batman Beyond, like it still is like wild. Ingrained in my. Where Bruce is super old and he ends up shooting a guy, and that's the first time he's ever used a gun, and it was just
because that stuff was coming out when I was like just at the age where the seriousness of it, like how in depth the story development was and stuff like that was like really good to me. But at the same time, I was young enough where I was like, still want to rock some cartoons in the afternoon.
Well, I mean, I think that was the same way with me with like Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Like, I mean...
Yeah, Teen Titans was
definitely... You and I harken back to, the original Teen Titans. OG it was stuff. So good.
Although, I do really enjoy Teen Titans Go as well.
Oh, yeah, because
Sky and I just sit and cackle laughing at them.
I think the reason why I love it is because it harkens back to those old reality MTV shows.
Yeah.
I think because we were talking about that at work, I was like, "That's what it reminds me of." Is like those
it touches on a lot of that
like
kind
reality
of feel.
TV show kind of feel,
like back in like the Robin Big, and then like the what was the name of all the people that live together and stuff like that? Real World, yeah, the Real World, some of those types of things. Yeah, it kind of brings back some feelings of those kinds of shows, and at the same time gives you that new school of almost kind of like how YouTubers are with their stuff. Because when the Titans would interact with, they'd break the third wall.
Fourth wall,
sorry. Whatever wall it is.
Break some wall down somewhere.
Yeah, but they would break that wall and talk to the audience and everything and stuff and that kind of stuff. Really it puts a show on a different level if they can do it and do it well.
Right. I mean, and I think that's why Deadpool works so well in that aspect. Like, it's hilarious, but like it's not. He'll call different actors that are in the movie by different characters that they played. Yeah. Like in Deadpool 2, he calls Cable One-Eyed Willie. Okay. Because Josh Brolin was in Goonies.
Right.
And then Thanos, because he was Thanos. And then there's an interaction between him and Wesley Snipes, because... spoiler, Blade's in the new.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never liked you. And he's like, I don't like you or something like that. He's like, oh, you never did. Because like their interaction in Blade Trinity.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so I just thought those were some fun little questions and answering a question that we got cut off of because we had so much quality content, which is really weird because usually like peek behind the curtain, a lot of the stuff that we talk about doesn't really have any significance, but we actually had a decent amount of significance in that episode.
Yeah, we did for sure.
So, all right, as we wrap this up, Josh, why don't you tell the people what we want them to do?
Yeah, so we would love for you guys to take an opportunity right now to go and leave us a review on whatever platform it is that you're listening on. If you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, if you're listening to us, even on YouTube right now, give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it on the episode that you're watching. Wherever you're listening at, give us a review. Especially, we always encourage 5-star reviews. Right. And we know that sounds selfish, but it's not so much selfish in the sense that we think that we're worth 5 stars. It's just that when you give us a 5-star review and specifically writing an actual message that goes along with it, it bumps us up in the algorithms and helps us to be recognized by other people so they can find our show as well. And again, our goal in this has never been to try to become famous. Our goal in this is to have fun, talk about these fun things that we find on the internets and in our minds, and let you kind of come along for the ride. And we hope that you enjoy it and that you'll share it with your friends. That would be another big thing that you could take an opportunity to do right now, is just to send the link for the show over to somebody that you know and say, hey, I think that you might like listening to these guys along with me, and we could discuss the same topics when we get together for dinner or to hang out or whatever.
And exactly. And the nice thing about our podcast, especially with the exception of a few different things, you don't really have to listen to any episode in any particular way. You can kind of jump in wherever. We don't really do any continuation stuff that often. Why don't you tell us in the comments, like, how you would have done the Great Emu War differently? What are your
How would you go
tweaks
about killing 6-foot birds if you had the opportunity? But tell us in the comments what you the would you rather question that we tackled today, the Great Emu War, all these things that we talked about at the end, as far as the cartoons that you would bring back around. Are you a Pancakes or a Waffles person? We'd love to hear all those things. We like hearing your insight, and we take an opportunity at the end of every month to read your comments. And so that's a good way for you to jump in and be able to be recognized on there. If you want to hear your name called out and your comment read at some point in time, you could try it out there. And then other than that, what do we want them to do as far as social media stuff goes?
Yeah, go ahead and like us, subscribe wherever you get this. Like Josh said with the comments, like it kind of pushes our stuff out into the algorithm. You know, liking, sharing, subscribing, all that kind of stuff. It helps us just to reach a wider audience.
Absolutely. So we appreciate you guys doing all that, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode. We will see you in the next one.
Bye. Hey. Holy chit chat.
Wait. Yeah, holy chit chat. You guys ready? Listen, one.
This is
2,
for you.
3.
We're going to tell you about Sip-A-Mug.
Yeah. Go on down to your local dollar store and get yourself a Sip-A-Mug right now.